Good morning, girls and boys, students of all ages, and all of you around the world that are tuning in today. I'm Charlotte Buchanan Yale. I'm the director of the Museum of Native American History right here in Bentonville, Arkansas. That is in northwest Arkansas, and we are right next to 39 nations over in Oklahoma. It is the third day of our culture celebration, Indigenuity 2.0. Honoring the lessons of Mother Earth. So it has been the most joyful, stellar group of presenters that have come to Northwest Arkansas today, from Professor Dan Wildcat to Dr. May Hay, through pop culture with Johnny J from A Tribe Called Geek, onward to a concert tonight with Grammy Award-winning guitarist Larry Mitchell and composer Michael B. Gay, who's Danae. So I hope you'll stay with us. After COVID, we are live and broadcasting, but we will record this. And one of the things I want to tell you, because I don't want to take up very much time, is the Museum of Native American History. Every museum has a story, and ours is dedicated to highlighting the artistry and diversity of the first people of all the Americas, from South America to Alaska to the Antilles. But that is not enough. We braid time, and we bring these amazing people here that are indigenous people that are trailblazing, making history today, from Commander John Harrington, first Native American astronaut, to Academy Award winner Wes Studi. And then on the third leg of our braid, we're recording this today, so it is there for educators all around the world to tap in and use this to further our education of our collective history of the world and our collective humanity. One of the things we want to send out prayers today for all the people that are in Alaska and over to Puerto Rico. And we couldn't be doing the cultural celebration at a better time, because together we're stronger and there's always a solution for our planet. So enough about what's going to be in the future, because in the present right now, I have Will Thompson, who is a contributing writer for Coyote Crow. And thank you so much for being here. And thank you all for joining us today in this workshop.
Thank you. Oseo Nagad. Hello, everybody. First of all, if you want to participate, and you're totally welcome to just like observe and hang out and watch, but if you want to participate and make your character, I would like to encourage you to kind of fill up these round tables. And you guys that have extra books and character sheets, please pass them out. Make sure everybody's got as much as we have available here. I think this table back here might need a book and some character sheets if y'all have some extras here. But yeah, I just want to make sure everybody that wants to participate is in and has the resources and things. Okay, yeah, she's gonna make sure we have some more stuff, but once we get a little settled, I'll go ahead and get started. Okay, I think we're kind of settled in. I want to see if somebody can bring us some more pencils, but for the time being, just kind of share. We'll do the best we can, and feel free to double up on books and character sheets and things. And if anybody can share a book with that table back there, that'd be good too, because those guys don't have a book. Okay. Oseo Nagad, Will Thompson Dawado, Jichaleg, Oklahoma City, Janela. So my name is Will Thompson. I am from Oklahoma City. I'm a Cherokee Nation citizen, and I am a game designer by profession. I design educational games, I design role-playing games, I design board games, and I helped work on and create Coyote Crow. And this game is pretty unique. So first of all, I want to ask, how many people here play or have played role-playing games before? We got a few, yeah. So what games do you guys play? Dungeons and Dragons, what about you guys? Dungeons and Dragons and Warhammer, yeah. So you got the, me too, the popular ones here. Anybody else back there? Anybody else played? Okay. So we got a few D&D players here. We got some people who know what these games are. So so you guys, what would you say, how would you describe what is a role-playing game? And I'm going to go ahead and give you the microphone. So if you guys want to talk, you good? Sure.
A game where the plot is decided by a character's actions.
Okay.
I always describe it like reading a book, but you're the main character and you get to make the choices.
Okay. Those are good. You want to...
I guess the way I would describe a role-playing game is it is a infinitely created story that is decided by you and your group of friends' actions.
Yeah, that's all really good answers. Because the biggest part of it is that it is a story created by everybody at the table. And role-playing games can be played in a lot of different ways. For some people, it's just doing battles on a little map on a tabletop. For some people, it's about the streaming. So if you guys have watched anything like Critical Role, those have become pretty popular. Where people are like acting out the characters and doing it all as a performance online. But it doesn't have to be that. It can be a very personal story with just you and your friends sitting around a table. And so some of you guys have talked about it's an interactive story. So in a lot of role-playing games, you have a game master, a dungeon master, or whatever you happen to call it. In Coyote and Crow, we call it the storyteller. And the storyteller kind of plays the world. They play everything that isn't the main characters. They tell the story of everything that's going on and kind of keep the characters on track to put together a cohesive plot. The characters are the players. They're you and the characters you're going to be creating, and you get to make your own stories within this world, kind of where the storyteller just kind of directs the action. Which kind of brings me to my favorite definition of role-playing is that it is collaborative storytelling. So any story that is meant to be told and performed and exists while it is being told, it matters that the whole audience is involved. The audience has a say in it. Just being there, just your reactions, all matter. And collaborative storytelling lets us all kind of come together and create a world and create a tale, a story that wouldn't exist just being told by one single person. Nobody knows how it's going to end. The storyteller doesn't know how it's going to end. The dungeon master doesn't know how it's going to end. The players don't. But all coming together, you go through this process and you create a story that would not have existed if we weren't all doing it together. And the rule sets that we create, whether it's Coyote and Crow or Dungeons and Dragons or anything else, help kind of direct that action and kind of give a framework for all that so that you can create that story and you can play that game in a way that keeps everything in line, right? So it's not just everybody throwing out, hey, I do this, I want to do this. There's some rules and some structure around it. So I want to talk about what Coyote and Crow is in particular. So the story of this game is that in our world, in this Earth, 700 years ago, there was a great climate disaster. There was something that happened that plunged the world into basically a new ice age. And as the world slowly came out of that, things developed differently than they did in our timeline. So this is an alternate history. And in this history, the continents that we came to call the Americas were never colonized. Nobody ever came over here from Europe or wherever, and these cultures developed all on their own. So on top of this, we add some fantastical elements. So according to this story, this great climate disaster and the things that followed it were followed by something called the Awis in the story. And the Awis is this power that kind of came from this comet that caused this climate disaster, and it adds a little power to people who go through a ritual to gain almost superpowers. And you'll see that in your characters because you're playing heroic characters in this world that have some extra abilities above what a normal human could do. And on top of that, we incorporate lots of elements of Native American folklore, and so some of the monsters and the stories and the spirits and the tales that come from all of the different nations, of North and South America are kind of built into this a little bit. And so this builds a very different world than what you would play in something like Dungeons and Dragons. So Dungeons and Dragons, it's all about, now you can play any way you want. You can play any game any way you want, tell the story that your group wants to play, sitting at the table, But Dungeons and Dragons, the rules a lot are built around, killing monsters, going through dungeons, gathering loot, all that kind of stuff. And Coyote and Crow takes it a little bit differently, not just focusing on the combat, but focusing on other ways of resolving conflicts, other types of conflicts, other things that are happening, that could be interpersonal conflicts, or it could be combat, or it could be, political things. So going through a little bit, wow, Coyote and Crow's different. And so taking a very different look. And so this is a world that in some ways, some people have kind of said, hey, this is almost utopian because it's a world where people there's no extreme poverty. There's still different, there's still rich people and poor people, but nobody goes without housing or without medical care or, or those basic necessities. But we still have a world where there's lots of things. There's political issues. There's still crime. There's still, mysterious things out in the forest and out in, and in the back alleys that, can cause conflict and cause some interesting drama in your stories. So I'm going to step us through the character creation process. So a big part of this, of playing any role-playing game, is understanding who your character is and how to create them and how the attributes that we assign to them kind of guide you in how you play and how it affects the story that you're telling. So this looks like a lot of steps. We're going to skip some of them today. But I'm just going to go through a little bit of what's going on. So you've got your character sheets in front of you. I think most of you do. So the first step is to define a motivation. And so now these words are some examples in the book of the different motivations. All right, so these are some examples of motivations, and these can really kind of mean whatever you want, and you're not limited by this list. So to start with, I want everybody to kind of think about the kind of character that they would want to play. And I know you don't know a lot about the world right now. If you have any questions, man, just raise your hand, ask a question, think about it. But think about a character you want to play. Something that is someone that is just a powerful, cool character. And you can take your inspiration. If you've never done this before, take your inspiration from a character from a movie or a book you've read. Something you'd want to play, some person you'd want to be in this fictional world. So I'm going to come down here and talk to some of you guys. What are you guys thinking as far as motivations and protecting? So like a protector, somebody who's... Okay. Yeah?
Like Robin Hood, but he's bad. Also good.
Okay. Independence. Yeah, so somebody who maybe wants to exert how they're different from everybody around them and do their own thing. Yeah. Justice. So how are you seeing Justice as far as a character?
Somebody else also wants to be a vigilante.
Okay, so we've got a little bit of conflict going out. So you're going for Justice. So maybe you are against the vigilante because he's doing things. Yeah. Okay. So the next step is to choose an archetype. And these archetypes are not like character classes in D&D. These aren't defining everything about your character. They're just kind of giving an idea of your what you do. This is your thing. This is the thing that you're good at that you want to focus on. So, I'm sorry, we've got a question back here. Yeah, let's go ahead. Okay, I'm going to go through all of them just real quick. Okay? Yeah. So a warrior might be somebody who was a former soldier or a former protector of some kind. Maybe they were even an athlete. Scout is somebody who maybe also could have been an athlete, but more of like an agility, a runner, or a gymnast or something. Somebody who is interested in going out and just finding things and observing. And tinkerer is a builder, so maybe you are an engineer or a mechanic or someone else who just likes to create things out of nothing. Seeker is, so this is the perception-based one, so a seeker, and these are all in the book too. If you've got access to a book, you can kind of see the descriptions. Let me actually look at seeker just so I can make sure I say it right. Perception is the focus and charisma. So seekers are the detectives. So you guys that are looking at like justice and things might be looking at seeker, or you might be looking at one of the others. It just depends. So the seekers are trying to find the hidden things. Healer is pretty obvious. So healer is someone who wants to care for others, who wants to heal physically, spiritually, any of those things. And Whisperer, as you asked back there, is a little bit more interesting. Whisperer is someone who's interested in the spiritual sort of side of things. So in this world, of course, the spirit world is a fully real thing that you will interact with, and those things exist. And a whisperer is somebody who specializes in that.
So let's say a character's like a mob boss. What would he play under?
Okay, so that could be a couple different things. And you can think of the archetype a little bit as their background too. So maybe this mob boss rose up as from a thug, you know, and became a mob boss. And so maybe he would have a warrior background. Or maybe this character, you know, started out as maybe he started out as a thief or something, and it starts out as you know, scout or even whisperer. You know, it just really depends on where he came up from, right? Yeah.
I'm a vigilante, right? We focus on stealth, but that'd be like scouts. You use a bow.
Yeah, I think scout would be your like stealthy type archetype. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to pop over to the next step. So here we're just getting our basics down about who your character is. So how old are they? You know, what is their gender identity and sexuality and general, just anything about who you are as a person. And there's all these spots at the top of your character sheet to write that down. Miscellaneous can just be anything else that's an identifier about you. Maybe you have something specific about your look, about your personality that you want to mention there. And notice next to tribe, we've got an asterisk. So if you are, in real life, if you are a member of a indigenous community or nation, feel free to make your character a member of that same tribe, because that same tribe exists in this world. You don't have to, but you're absolutely welcome to do so. If you're not a member of an indigenous community, skip that part. There's plenty of like fictional stuff in the world to use, so you don't have to, you know, use somebody else's tribe. 170, sure, why not? Yeah, I mean, you're gonna need to come up with a good reason, like a good story why, but we'll get to that. You can do that. Settling down, I'm gonna go ahead and pop over to the next thing, but continue going through that if you need to. Okay, so path is a little cut off, but that's okay. Paths, this is a lot, and these are in the book if you want to look at it. So in this world, as a person is coming of age, if they choose to take on the power, they choose a path, and these paths are all kind of themed after different animals. If you want to, you could pick a different animal and just pick one of the like related stat columns to go with. But these kind of theme what you what your character is kind of pulled around, right? What their powers they eventually pick kind of go with. So, like I said, I know that there's a lot of these, and I don't have room definitely up here for all of them in the descriptions, but they are in the book. If you got the book, you can take a look. So I'll give you guys just a minute to take a look at that.
Is spirit like how well they can manipulate the spirit realm stuff?
Spirit is neither really. Spirit is like your force of internal like will. Well, so will is how you can like. The different stats. Will is more like how you your inner like mental strength, right? Spirit is how you can sort of influence other people, like on large. Okay, I'm gonna move on past paths real quick. And it's okay if you don't get all this figured out. If you want to, you can go back later and check it out. Okay, so now we're getting to a little bit of the mathy part, and that's fine if you just want to like not do this right now and kind of jot down some notes. But if you get an idea, I'm just going to say gifts and burdens. We'll get into what that is, and stats and skill points and ranks, and you'll have a certain number of points to assign to these things, and these define some of the numbers that will be used in the game to determine what your character can and can't do and how well they can do it. So the way the game works is it's all based on D12s. So you'll roll a number of D12s, trying to get over a certain number to get successes. And your stats and skills and things will determine how many dice you get to roll. So I'm going to start with gifts and burdens. So conceptually, gifts and burdens are the things that are either a benefit to your character or a hardship. Some of them can be both. For example, think of family. Family can be a real benefit because you've got people to help you out with things. Let's say, for example, you've got a sister. So your sister, maybe she's an engineer and she can help you like fix your gear when it's broken, right? So that's a gift. But maybe she also has some troubles of her own that you have to help her with, and that's also a burden. So it can be both, or it can be one or the other. And here's a bunch of different examples of gifts and burdens, but you're not limited to this list. Anything you can think of that's like, hey, my character has this thing. Maybe they have some, a spirit world connection or some like great secret about somebody on the council of your nation, like the rulers of your nation, or maybe they have some powerful allies, or maybe they have some powerful enemies. These are all different ideas of gifts and burdens. So you start off with 5 points, and so just make a note of that, and you can get an extra one for each burden you take, and each gift costs 1 point. And one of the things we really want to encourage is don't just think of making your character as powerful and awesome as possible. To make an interesting story, take some burdens, because those burdens are where the drama comes in. Those burdens are the things that you'll have to overcome and work for. That's where good storytelling happens. So think of some things that, your character might be having to deal with in their life, and also some cool things that they might just have that are a good benefit. Yeah, and those are examples, so you can do whatever you want, but those are some examples. But each negative thing, so each burden, each negative thing gives you an extra point, and each positive thing takes a point. Right, and you got just 5 points to start with. So you can just get like 5 like positive things, right? So just pick character traits. Yeah, so you're just picking things about your character, things that like are things about their life, right? So like notoriety is an interesting one. So notoriety can be a good thing and a bad thing. If you're famous, maybe people let you into wherever you want to go because they're like, oh, I know you can come on in. But also it's a bad thing because maybe people recognize you everywhere you go and you can't hide. You can't get away from that notoriety. So things can be both, and it's really how you describe it that matters, right? And so think about how these things would affect your life. Quirks are just weird things about your character, for lack of a better term. So just something interesting about your character that maybe people notice, and people will be like, I always know that guy because he looks like this, and you can't not be noticed. Or because he always says this or always does this. That's good. That makes good storytelling. Having a lot of burdens makes good storytelling. Yeah. Think about, so like all those words up there are just examples, really. You don't have to use those words, but you can if you want to. Okay. So what you're trying to do is think about things in your character's life that are either like a benefit or kind of like a negative, right? Stuff that they're either having to deal with and they have to deal with on a daily basis, or stuff that's like just a good thing that they have. Like maybe they've got family that can help them with things. Maybe you've got a rich uncle. Maybe you've got a brother that is, famous or something, maybe
we're deciding which one's a burden,
which one's a gift, and it can be both. You can take something that's both a gift and a burden, because like I was saying, the notoriety, if you're famous, you can go wherever you want, everybody recognizes you, maybe they give you stuff or let you into the club or whatever, but also you can't hide because everybody knows who you are, so wherever you go, people are going to be bothering you, so it's also a burden. You have 5 points, but you get extra points by taking burdens.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. It can, and like I was saying, you don't have to use just these words. Like the description of the burden or the benefit is really the important thing, right? So if you describe like that he's got a double life and it's a benefit because of XYZ, that's fine. But it's also a hindrance because of XYZ, that's also fine, right? Like it can be whatever you want to describe it to be. All right, I'm gonna move on from this. But feel free to come back to it if you think of some more good ideas later. Okay. So now we're getting on to stats. And this is, again, kind of the mathy part of the game. So these are the basic characteristics of your character, kind of what aspects what things they're good at and bad at. So strength is pretty obvious. This is just like how physically strong you are. Intelligence, how mentally strong you are, how well you can pick up new knowledge. Spirit, this is how spiritually strong you are, how much your sort of like energy and your vibe kind of spreads out to other people. Agility is physical, like quickness, dexterity, coordination, that kind of stuff. Perception is how quickly you notice things, right? So these are all the sort of like agile type traits. And charisma is how you kind of affect another people, react to another person and what they're doing and what they're saying. Endurance is your physical ability to sort of withstand punishment, damage, like injury, anything like that. Wisdom is your ability to sort of withstand mental damage. So withstand, maybe ideas and, people trying to influence you that might affect you. And I got spirit on here twice. I think I messed that up. It should be, what did I do wrong here? Yeah, will should be that last one. I'm sorry, I typed that in wrong. Will would be your, your other one. So your ability to react and defend against more spiritual kind of things that are affecting you. So this part is a little weird. So you've got 42 points, and the stat you can have can be anywhere from 1 to 5. So everything starts at a 1 for 0 points, and the amount of points you spend gets you higher. So as you can see, each point higher costs a little bit more. Okay, I'll go over it one more time. So each of your stats start at 1, because that costs 0 points. If you want to move something up to a 3, you have to spend 6 out of your 42 points. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. You can't go negative, no. And notice that when you picked your archetype, it gave you a +1 to one of these stats. So you get to add that in on top of this. So we had one question about path and if that affects your stats, and it does not. The path will affect your abilities that you pick in a little while, and I'll get to that explanation. Next. Are we good to move on past stats? Anybody need more time still? Okay. So skills. So you'll notice at the bottom of your character sheet, there's a big list of different skills, and those are all the skills that exist in the game. And those are like specific things that you know, specific knowledges that your character has, things that they know how to do. So there's a couple different types of skills. So there's general skills and there are specialized skills. So general skills are what you're going to pick first. You have to have a generalized skill in something before you can pick up a specialized skill. So generalized skills, and you can see the cost. You've got another 42 points to spend on these. And these are all values of or a sum of 2 stats, and I didn't have room to put all that up there, but if you look at in the book at the skills table, so it'll be on page 149. That'll tell you what stats go into those skills. So basically, when you do this, you're going to add your skill rank to your 2 stats. So like say you spend 3 points on it, you'll have a skill rank of 2. And the stats on that table, you'll add those 2 in this. Again, at this point, if you don't want to get too far into this and worry about all the math and stuff, since we're just kind of doing this in a big group here, just put a check by the skills that you want your character to have, and then we can kind of move on. But if you want to get into it, absolutely get into it. So the way specialized skills work, if you take a skill first, so say you take ranged weapons as your skill, then you want to specialize, you can specialize in a bow, and then that would be a specialty skill. And specialty skills work the same, they're just cheaper. But you have to have the general skill first before you can get the specialty skill. Okay, so yeah, there are some asterisks by the skills, and somebody asked about that. Those have to do with real world indigenous culture things. So ceremony or language if you are a member of a indigenous community that has their own specific ceremonies and languages and you want to incorporate that into the game, feel free to do so. We just ask that you don't take ceremonies and specific details like that from other cultures that you don't belong to and try to incorporate that into your game, because we don't want that kind of appropriation going on. But if you just want to make up something or just have it generically be ceremony, that's also fine. Okay, so we're running out of time, and we are getting only through parts of this. So I'm going to go pretty quickly through the rest of this because we're almost out of time, but you guys can absolutely take your character sheets and work on them later. So abilities these are your superhuman abilities, and there's a bunch of these, and they're all in the book, and there's absolutely not room for me to put them all up here. But these all give you different things like enhanced strength, enhanced agility, the ability to speak with different types of creatures, the ability to influence people or do other fantastical things. Like this is like the really cool stuff, the really cool kind of almost superpowers that your character can get. And there's a whole chapter in the book on that. But again, I'm running out of time now because this is taking a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and skip through the last few of these slides. So derived stats, as you see to the right of your regular stats are your derived stats. And these are your defenses, and then mind, body, soul are basically like hit points, if you're familiar with that. Body being your like physical hit points, mind being your like mental ones, and then soul being your spiritual ones. And there's 3 different ways of doing damage. And also using your abilities, those special superpowers you have, in some cases costs mind, body, and soul points to activate those. So it's draining you a little bit, but it's also giving you these extra powers. And there's the formulas for those. Again, I'm going to go through this real quick because we're running out of time, but that's how that works. Background. So this is the point where you actually get to sit down and write the story of your character. Just like, where did they come from? Who are they? How did they get to where they're at? You know, who are their people? What are their goals? What do they want in life? What are they striving for? What is their main struggle? And all of this stuff. You just get to just kind of write down, come up with it, and figure out how that goes. And then finally, the last thing is your name. So feel free to use a name from your own indigenous culture and language, or there's a name generator on there, or just make something up. Like make up a cool sounding name. But your character needs a name, you know, so that's who you are. So that's the whole process, and sorry I had to speed through those last few parts there, but they did give me the time thing. So if we can just real quick, you know, kind of as a group, talk about this. What did you guys find interesting or different about this activity? Does anybody have anything they want to share? Sure.
I like the fact that it was like a futuristic style sort of Native American thing with all that culture and aspect and like implemented into it, and it let me kind of have a lot of fun with it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, unique setting, like futuristic and stuff. Does anybody else have anything they thought was particularly interesting that they want to mention? Easy to pick up. Okay. So you thought it was an easy system to learn. That's cool. What about you guys back there? Did you guys have anything you want to say? Sure. Yeah, different? Yeah. Well, cool. I'm glad you got to experience it and enjoy it then. Yeah. Is there anything that you were really surprised about? Anything you didn't expect from Coyote and Crow or from this character creation process that you found? A lot more in depth than you thought? Yeah. Well, that is that. And again, sorry I had to speak through the last part. Here's some information about me. And here is a QR code link to Coyote and Crow. So the core rule book that you have there is currently out and published and for sale. They've got them in the gift shop. They've got them on the online store. We're also doing a crowdfunding campaign for some adventures. So there's 2 compendiums of like additional adventures set in the Freelands, which are sort of like what we would call the Great Plains region of North America. And I wrote one of those stories, so I hope everybody gets to like check that out. But yeah, there's some really cool adventures, some really cool stuff, and you can check that out and back the game. And they've already raised like a ton of money on that, so it's gonna be a really cool product when it comes out. If you just go to coyoteandcrow.net, you'll be able to find a link on there. coyoteandcrow.net. I don't know when our next thing is starting, but feel free to hang out for a little bit and kind of finish up your characters or whatever, and take your character sheets with you. But that's all of my presentation. Thank you guys. Donut go high.